Snow falls like a shroud over the onion domes of Moscow. December 1922. In a dimly lit chamber beneath the Kremlin, Joseph Stalin leans over a massive oak table, his finger tracing lines on a ledger bound in cracked leather. The air smells of ink and candle wax, flickering torchlight casting long shadows across columns of numbers, millions of rubles, tons of steel, endless rows of grain yields. This is the birth of the Soviet Union, forged from the ashes of revolution, spanning 1/6 of the Earth's land, from the Baltic frost to Pacific waves. 15 republics united under a single red banner, 290 million souls promised a workers' paradise where wealth would flow like the Volga itself. But beneath the pomp of parades, where tanks rumble past cheering throngs and banners proclaim peace, land, bread, the vaults echo with emptiness. The new empire's treasury, once brimming with czarist gold melted into worker medallions, now holds promissory notes backed by faith alone. Hyperinflation from the Civil War has clawed rubles into worthless confetti. A loaf of bread costs wheelbarrows of cash. Lenin, pale and whispering from his sickbed, decrees the new economic policy, a desperate retreat, allowing peasant markets to breathe life into starving cities. Private traders hawk wares in shadowed alleys, their scales clinking with copper kopecks, a faint metallic chime against the regime's iron dream. Enter the 5-year plans, Stalin's audacious gamble. Factories spring from Siberian mud like steel monoliths, belching smoke to outproduce the capitalist West. Planners in smoke-filled rooms tally quotas: 10 million tons of coal, 3 million tractors, rivers diverted to irrigate collective farms. Propaganda reels hum in theaters, showing bountiful harvests where grim serfs once toiled. Yet the ledgers lie. Kolkhoz farms, those vast collectives, deliver half their promised grain. The rest rots in inefficient silos or feeds bloated bureaucracies. Taxes in kind, seized at gunpoint, fill state granaries, but black markets thrive, where a single chicken fetches more than a month's wage in forged ration coupons. By the 1930s, the facade hardens. The Great Purge silences economists who whisper of waste. Heads roll, their offices sealed with red wax. Military spending swells the coffer's drain. 25% of GDP funneled into cannons and tanks, borders fortified against invisible foes. Consumer goods, a luxury for dreamers. Moscow's GUM department store displays empty shelves behind plate glass, a cruel diorama of abundance. Citizens queue for hours under gray skies, clutching tethered rubles, while elites sip Georgian wine in dachas. The empire swells, annexing the Baltics, Bessarabia, but its purse strings tighten. War looms, and with it the first true test of this pretended wealth. World War II erupts like a thunderclap across the steppes, 1941. German panzers carve toward Moscow, their treads grinding frozen earth into muddied trenches. In the Kremlin's war room, maps sprawl under lamplight, red pins marking the front while accountants tally the hemorrhage. Factories uprooted to the Urals, 27 million lives lost, entire treasuries melted into T-34 tanks rolling off assembly lines. The Soviet purse bleeds. Lend-Lease aid from America funnels in spam cans and jeeps, a lifeline of $11 billion in today's coin, but it's borrowed breath, not owned gold. Victory comes at Stalingrad's rubble, the Red Army pushing west to Berlin's smoldering ruins, but the vaults remain gaunt. Reconstruction devours what's left. Cities rebuilt in concrete slabs, their foundations poured from deficit concrete. Peace brings the illusion's golden hour. The 1950s dawn with Nikita Khrushchev pounding his shoe at the UN, proclaiming Soviet steel will bury the West. Gosplan planners hunched over abacuses in vast halls decree miracles, living standards to surpass America by 1970, apartments for every family, cars in every garage. Sputnik beeps into orbit, a technological flex funded by slashed butter rations. But the ledgers whispered deceit. Official tallies claim 7% annual growth, tractors plowing virgin lands in Kazakhstan, yet harvests wither under salinized soil, grain imported in secret to stave off famine. Black marketeers peddle jeans and records under bridge shadows, their Samizdat scales weighing Western luxuries against rubles devalued in the dark. Then the black gold rush. 1970s oil strikes in Siberia gush like arterial blood, pipelines snaking to Europe filling coffers with petrodollars, hard currency reserves swelling to 30 billion by 1981. The empire buys time, wheat from America, computers from Japan, grain to feed 260 million mouths. Military parades dazzle with SS-20 missiles, 25% of GDP forged into nuclear steel, borders sealed from Warsaw to Vladivostok. Consumer queues shorten briefly, televisions flickering in communal flats showing cosmonauts floating above capitalist dust. Yet beneath the surface, rot festers. Factories overstaffed with idle hands produce shoes that sold themselves after a week. Televisions exploding mid-broadcast. Productivity stalls. Total factor output flatlines as innovation starves in bureaucratic chains. Brezhnev's stagnation deepens the charade. Gerontocracy in fur hats approve phantom quotas, bridges built on paper, never spanning rivers. Corruption blooms. Factory directors pocket bonuses for inflated yields, their vaults stuffed with pilfered copper wire. Oil prices peak, masking the lie. Economists silenced, their warnings buried in classified files stamped top secret. The empire spans 22 million square kilometers, a colossus astride Eurasia, but its treasury doors creak on rusty hinges, echoing with the weight of unpaid debts. Hyperefficiency? A myth. The $10 trillion lie swells, GNP overstated by double, bankruptcy a decade away, as planners forge ink into illusory gold. Flickering torchlight dances over ledgers that no longer balance, the facade cracking under its own borrowed weight. Mikhail Gorbachev ascends in 1985. A reformer with steel-rimmed glasses, stepping into Brezhnev's shadow as oil prices plummet like Siberian avalanches. The 1986 crash slashes revenues by 40 billion rubles annually. Hard currency evaporates, gold reserves sold in desperate auctions to Western banks. In smoke-choked Politburo chambers, Gorbachev unveils Perestroika, restructuring to breathe market air into the planned behemoth. Price controls loosen on select goods, cooperatives sprout like weeds, but without true competition, inflation stirs. Rubles chase phantom supplies, black market premiums soaring to 10 times official rates. Factories, long chained to quotas, now hoard inputs, their vaults locked against rivals, output cratering as planners scramble to rewrite ledgers stained with correction fluid. Glasnost pierces the veil. Once sealed archives crack open. Samizdat presses whir in basements, printing tales of Chernobyl's meltdown, not just radiation, but the fiscal folly of rushed reactors built on cheap concrete. Citizens glimpse the truth. Military drains 28% of GDP. Afghan quagmire devouring billions in stinger-dodging helicopters, while breadlines coil around blocks under Leningrad's lamps. Republics stir. Baltic nationalists chant for sovereign budgets. Ukraine eyes its fertile black earth free from Moscow's tax scythe. Hyperinflation erupts by 1989. Rubles multiply like rabbits, a wagon costing what a dacha did yesterday. Gorbachev's half measures birth a hybrid monster, state enterprises privatized on paper, snapped up by nomenklatura insiders at fire sale prices, their new vaults brimming with embezzled coin. The empire fractures under monetary strain. 1990 sees the Warsaw Pact crumble, East German marks flooding back worthless as the wall topples. Soviet republics hoard rubles, printing their own coupons. Georgia, Armenia, the Caucasus minting scrip backed by ethnic pride alone. Central treasury doors slam shut. Inter-republic barter revives. Trucks laden with vodka swapped for Belarusian tractors, echoing medieval fares. Debt balloons to $66 billion. IMF whispers denied as ideological treason. Factories idle. Workers paid in soup vouchers. Hypermarkets in Moscow hawk smuggled Levi's for a month's wage. The Colossus teeters, its 15 republics pulling purse strings toward independence, the ruble's value dissolving like frost under spring sun. August 1991. Hardliners stage their coup, tanks rumbling into Moscow under gray dawn skies, aiming to seal the reformist vaults forever. Gorbachev confined in Crimea. Boris Yeltsin atop a tank vows defiance, his baritone rallying crowds clutching faded bills. The plot unravels in 72 hours, plotters arrested, their emergency decrees shredded like bad checks. Emboldened, republics declare sovereignty. Ukraine's referendum buries the Union with 90% votes. By December, in Belavezha Forest, leaders ink the empire's death warrant over cognac, the CIS born from ashes. Yeltsin's Russia inherits the debt mountain, rubles hyperinflating to quadrillions before the 1998 anchor. Empty markets echo with footsteps, once mighty ledgers gathering dust, the largest empire on earth reduced to a ledger's final, unbalanced entry. Pretended wealth exposed, vaults silent and bare. As the red banners fade to dust in Belavezha's snow-dusted pines, the Soviet vaults stand empty, their iron doors ajar to reveal not gold, but the brittle paper of a trillion overdrawn promises. The largest empire on Earth, 22 million square kilometers of frozen tundra, black earth fields, and factory smokestacks, dissolves into 15 ragged states, their treasuries bartered like pawnbrokers' scraps. Yeltsin's Russia clutches the ruble's reins, but hyperinflation roars unchecked. Prices double monthly, savings evaporating into wheelbarrows of worthless notes, oligarchs rising from the rubble to hoard aluminum cans melted into private fortunes. Markets once echoing with propaganda now resound with the clatter of empty scales, citizens trading heirloom watches for loaves of bread under flickering street lamps. The Colossus crumbles not from tanks or traders alone, but from the weight of pretended wealth, a ledger's ink dried to lies, treasuries locked against the truth of bankruptcy. Now, in the quiet aftermath, history's ledgers turn their pages toward us. The Soviet collapse whispers a timeless caution. Empires, like fortunes, falter when illusions outpace substance. What pretended wealth hid in Moscow's vaults, we can guard against in our own lives, building reserves not in fiat promises, but in sound assets that hold their heft through storms. Diversify holdings beyond any single currency's shadow. Gold coins, productive land, or skills that meant value in any market. Shun over-leverage, that silent debt trap which turns abundance into chains. Remember how oil windfalls masked rot until the spigot ran dry. Watch early signs, creeping inflation devouring purchasing power, black markets blooming where official ledgers lie, productivity stagnating under rigid plans. These are not relics of red flags, but universal sentinels for personal vaults. Cultivate the habit of true accounting. Track inflows and outflows with the precision of a Gauss-planned clerk, but free from quotas deceit. Build cash buffers in stable harbors, enough to weather a decade's drought, as Siberia's oil once propped up a decaying giant. Avoid the siren of borrowed growth. Debt swells like unchecked rubles until one crash topples the tower. Invest in what endures, relationships that barter trust over coin, knowledge that forges opportunity from scarcity, communities resilient beyond central decrees. These steps, grounded and deliberate, transform history's ruins into personal ramparts, wealth not pretended but proven in the quiet balance of ledgers that close even. Reflect then on the broader echo. Every empire, from Rome's denarius debasement to the Soviets' trillion-ruble mirage, carries bankruptcy's seed in its soil. Crumbling stone vaults across epochs murmur the same truth. Greed for glory inflates bubbles that burst under reality's weight. Torchlight flickers over forgotten treasuries. Footsteps echo in silent markets, a reminder that no colossus defies gravity forever. History whispers across generations. Heed the market's hush before the vaults seal shut. And as the steppe winds carry away the last red threads, consider the next ledger turning. Who might next forge ink into illusion, only to find empty doors? Thank you for walking these shadowed halls with Bankrupt History. If these tales guard your own vaults, subscribe for the whispers yet to come.